I just want to show here where I grow some of my trees, talk about the light levels they get, and just a few of the things to their growing condition. These are in my backyard, so this is the west side of the house. We're looking towards the north here. They're getting a fair amount of kind of mid-morning light that's coming through, about this opening. That, like I said, it's looking north of the camera. East is towards the front. And then here we're looking back to the west. It's about 5 p.m. now, so we're looking at the evening light here. We're getting kind of dappled light, coming through from the sunset there from the west, coming through onto the trees. So let me walk over here and we'll take a closer look at some of these. This ends up being a really pretty good lighting situation for quite a number of plants that are a little bit more sensitive and that will burn a little bit easier. So I have a number of Japanese maples as well as other trees back here, and this situation has done really well for them. There's a fenced-in area, and I've had the worst thing that's happened back here is I've had some rabbits that have actually made their way in here, and they've killed off just a couple of trees that they've dug up and just chewed the roots right off of them. So that's been about the hardest thing back here. So these are in a product called Turfus, which is basically a fired clay that's broken up into these little pellets that you see here, and they're fairly even particle size. Especially when you get down lower in the bag, you're going to see more fine particles to it. I've not had those be a big problem with trees, but sometimes I will screen them out, run this over a screen, usually like a window screen, and take out the finer particles, and then use what's left. And you can do that on anything that might be a little bit more moisture, sensitive on there. But like I said, I've not had that be much of an issue, and I would say most of this stuff you're looking at out here is not screened for these trees. So, and then let me just show you what the water looks like going through, running through the Turfus here. It basically drains immediately. Pretty much I'm using this hose, running this full force into here, and it's draining right through. Now these boxes are built with a screen on the bottom, so this is just a full metal window screen across the bottom of these boxes with just a couple slats, feet running there to support them. But so that gives you an idea what the draining is like on there. Turfus drains really fast in pretty much all containers that have a reasonably decent drain hole structure to them. I just filled up this one a minute ago, and there was a smidge slow to drain at first, but then I found out it was just kind of clogged up on the bottom from where it was sitting. So and I probably don't have a window screen bottom in here, and I actually had some of the Turfus wash out. So that's something you want to do if you put it in any regular pot. You want to make sure that you have some window screen in there so that you don't have it draining out on you. So I've been told in smaller pots that fiberglass mesh tape like you use for drywall works pretty well too, but I haven't tried that myself. So let me just show a couple more trees. Here's some of these other Japanese maples. There, and some of the little ones right in here, and a couple more were later in the season, so some of them will get more green and they'll lose their variegation later in the year. Now, and these, we have just a little bit of dying on the tips. I just wanted to point that out because that can happen with just about any type of stress they're under. Those two actually happen to, that I'm looking at right here in this video, happen to be in about 3-quart nursery pots, and they have Turfus in there. I have the feeling that I may have those just staying a smidge on the wet side, then maybe watering them just a smidge often for those containers. Simply because these other open containers, boxes like this, dry out faster than those do, and I probably tend to spray those just a little bit too much. So that would be my guess as to why we're seeing a little bit of that tip browning. It can also, there's just a smidge of it on this one too. it can happen even basically in ideal conditions, just from the wind drying things out, from hot temperatures. You know, I'm in Neenah, Wisconsin, and we've had really warm weather for Wisconsin. It doesn't sound like it compared to a lot of the country, but you know, we've had a lot of mid 80s, you know, getting up to 90. We seem to have the wind blowing quite a bit here, and that tends to dry things out, you know, pretty quickly. And plants, you know, their root system isn't always up to supporting, you know, feeding water to the leaves quick enough to, you know, to keep them hydrated, especially when it's really windy and they can, you know, be drying out in a hurry there. So, so basically that's the conditions that I'm growing these in. I could definitely push these into a lot more light if I really wanted these to grow faster. I'm not growing any of the my trees or Japanese maples for production, you know, to sell. These are just all, you know, trees I'm just growing just as a hobby, you know, just for myself to, you know, make into little, eventually make into little bonsai trees. I mean, they are bonsai now. Bonsai just means anything, you know, a tree in a pot. So, but eventually maybe, you know, sculpt it a little bit more into some more formal bonsai shapes. But, so you're looking at one there that the rabbits may have actually killed, that dropped all its leaves on me. It was a pretty little tree. So it was unfortunate that they got their little paws on some of these things. But as I was saying, is that if I wanted to push the growth on these a lot faster, I would get these out into a lot more sun. I would experience more leaves being burned up, but it would definitely get more growth on there. So I'll make another video. I'll show some of my hostas and where I do have those out in a lot of sun. They're kind of, in terms of their sun sensitivity, needing shade, they're somewhat similar to the way Japanese maples are. They do vary a lot in their varieties in terms of how much sun they will take, with some of those you know, being really good at taking a lot of sun, and others you know, being not so good, which is actually kind of similar to what goes on with Japanese maples. With there are quite a few hundred Japanese maples cultivars, and some of those will take a lot more sun than others. So thanks for taking the time to watch.